All right, welcome to Talking Investing. I'm Tom, and as always, this is not financial advice. Today, I want to do a Bitcoin miner update, but it's going to be another special edition. Today, I want to talk about the cost per coin for each company. So I'm going to do a breakdown of that. We're going to look at that a bunch of different ways. So we talk about Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners all the time on this channel. If that is content that you're interested in, please remember to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Also, if everybody could please smash the like button, I would appreciate it. Lastly, if you want to join the channel and become a member, you can hit the join button on the YouTube page. If you don't see a join button, there should be a link below in the description. We do a once a week members only live stream, and that's actually today, Tuesday, after the market closes. So every Tuesday, we do a members only live stream, and on that live stream, the members get to pick a company for me to do a deep dive video on. So we have a lot of fun on that. We have an excellent group, so we'd love to have you join us. Let's talk about Bitcoin, and let's talk about cost per coin. Okay, so I'm going to start out on the Bitcoin one-day time chart. Bitcoin obviously has been in a bear market, a crypto winter, whatever you want to call it. We did hit, if you look on this daily time frame, we did hit a 2-year low back on November 9th. This was during the FTX crash. We got down to almost $15,500. We did retest that a few weeks later and get back down to almost $15,500 again. Since then, we gravitated up. You'll see for a long period of time, this blue line is at around $16,875, so just under $17,000. And other than a few days, for the next couple of months, we just went sideways somewhere around this line. So, that was a month and a half or 2 months of Bitcoin in the between, 15,500 and 17,000 range. So the question becomes, if your direct costs per coin are more than that, then to an extent, if you're selling your Bitcoin anyway, then it actually doesn't even make sense to mine the Bitcoin. In other words, for a company whose direct cost is $18,000, if all they're doing is mining the Bitcoin and then selling it to pay their bills, they're actually losing money on every single Bitcoin, and they would be better off turning all their machines off. And I will tell you, some companies did make that decision on a moment-to-moment basis. Because the price of energy fluctuates so much, there were times even during the day or during the month that I know a lot of these companies self-curtailed and turned their machines off at peak energy prices in order to avoid this very situation. Now, for a long time, Bitcoin had a giant run. In 2021, this really wasn't a conversation because the cost to mine a Bitcoin was so small compared to the price of Bitcoin that it didn't really make a big difference. That was the peak of the bull market. We are now deep into the bear market. This is official crypto winter type territory. So for that reason, if we're going to be visiting $15,000, $16,000, $17,000, there are companies that don't make money at that. So let's get to the data and let's look at the cost per coin. Okay, so this is direct cost per Bitcoin by company, and it says excluding depreciation. So this is for the quarter ended September 30th, 2022. So I'm gonna say a couple of things about that. Number one, we're already obviously more than 3 months past that. So this is always a very lagging data point. And I'm gonna show you later in this video that these costs do change from quarter to quarter. So to some extent, all we can do is use our best judgment and compile this data and try and extrapolate for ourselves what we think is going on currently. The second thing is I look at this excluding depreciation because a company's decision to leave a machine on or turn a machine off is strictly based on their cash flow. So what are their cash costs per Bitcoin to mine the next Bitcoin? If we were to include the depreciation, most of these numbers would at least double. So lastly, I will warn you, the cost varies massively from quarter to quarter. So this was September 30th, 2022. So again, that's already 3.5 months out of date, but it is the most recent information. So we don't know what people are paying right now. We'll get the next quarter's results sometime probably in the next month and a half. Okay, so in the third quarter, you're gonna see Cleanspark had the lowest cost per coin. So they were at $8,000. So for Cleanspark, with Bitcoin even down at $15,000, that was not a problem for them at all. They were generating still a very healthy gross profit margin at that amount. Hive Blockchain was in second at $9,896. Bitfarms was in third at $10,224. So those three kind of differentiated themselves from the rest of the field. It pops up to HUT, which was at $13,434. They were in fourth. Now, even at $13,400, when Bitcoin was hovering at just under $17,000 for a couple of months, HUT was okay. They could leave their machines on. They were making gross profit to pay down their overhead. Same thing with Riot. Riot was at $14,000. Now, I will tell you, Riot has another very complicated piece of the puzzle. So you would think this is a very straightforward situation, but actually this cost per coin equation is extremely complicated. When the grid needs the power, Riot gets paid to contribute its power back to the grid versus mining Bitcoin. And that has been big dollars. And they receive that in the form of energy credits. So when you look at this $14,000 per coin, it does not include the fact that they received massive energy credits. That's just the way the proper accounting works. They're not allowed to offset that against their direct costs, so they have to show that separately elsewhere in the financial statements. So when you look at the financial statements, it looks like they're paying $14,000 per coin, but a lot of that money they're never really going to have to pay because they're going to pay for it with the credits that they earned. And I just want to show you on their financial statements because I've highlighted a line called Power Curtailment Credits. So they received $13 million in credits in Q3. The reason that this is complicated is that is not a steady stream of income. We don't know if and when and how much they're going to have to curtail and how much they're going to get paid. It really depends on how bad the weather gets or what type of situations happen. So there'll be some months where that's zero and they don't curtail any. When an emergency happens, they can actually, unfortunately, for everybody else, in the case of an emergency, they actually make huge amounts of money on this. Okay, so next in line is Core Scientific. They were at about $14,771, so they were still okay. Now, we all know they went into Chapter 11 reorganization, but all their machines are still on and running. So if they were able to maintain this cost in the fourth quarter, then they were cash flow positive mining Bitcoin. Okay, BitDigital pops up to 15,000. Now we're getting pretty close here. This is a company that may have to make decisions on a day-to-day basis. Gree was at 16,900, so on the average, they were actually a little bit over the cost of Bitcoin for the last several months. Now, subsequently, Gree has basically restructured their entire business, so I'm not too worried about digging deep into Gree because they've given a lot of their machines back, and they're just a different company than they were at September 30th, 2022. DigiHost was paying $18,000 per coin, and a lot of that is because they're revenue sharing, they're leasing their equipment, and as a result, they have to share a lot of their revenue, so that drives up the cost of their Bitcoin quite a bit. So for DigiHost, they need Bitcoin to be at a healthy number for them to be profitable. With the equation that they've got set up right now, in the last quarter, they were paying $18,000 a Bitcoin. So once again, in the months of November and December, Bitcoin was under 17,000. So, if they were able to maintain this cost, they actually lost money every Bitcoin that they mined. And then in last place is Marathon at $22,000 per coin. So the Marathon situation is going to change over time. They do turn their machines off all the time. So I know right now there's definitely something going on. They're not running at full capacity very rarely. So we're going to have to get a sense over time because they're mining very few Bitcoin compared to what I expect them to do in 2023. So they're mining 400 or 500 Bitcoin a month, and that's probably likely to double or triple or quadruple in 2023. So let's see when they scale up to where they are, if that number comes down and changes. But they definitely, you can see on Marathon, because they have their own pools, there's days where it would appear their machines are just turned off. They mine nothing. To further confuse matters, I just want to show the third quarter versus the second quarter because you can see these prices jump around a lot, and there's a lot of reasons for that. These are new companies. A lot of them are changing the way their company works, the format of their company. A lot of them are still negotiating new deals and increasing their exahash rate and bringing a lot of new machines online. And so their new energy costs may be different than their previous energy costs. So you can see this is an extremely fluid situation. This changes rapidly. That's why I say I would not rely on these numbers because every quarter we're likely to have a few surprises in here. So when I do this for the fourth quarter, there will be some changes. You can see there were giant changes from the second quarter to the third quarter. HUT, for instance, was at $19,000 a coin in the second quarter. They were having a problem. They brought that down to $13,000 in the third quarter, and now, of course, in the fourth quarter, they're having a disagreement with one of their energy providers, and they've turned a bunch of their machines off. BitDigital, on the other hand, if I go further down the list, BitDigital was at $15,000 in the third quarter. In the second quarter, they were at $18,000, so they actually made progress, moved in the right direction, and lowered their cost of Bitcoin. But then if we look at, say, Core Scientific Core Scientific was at about 10,800 in the second quarter, and then that popped up to 14,700 in the third quarter. Now, we know they were scaling up their operations massively, but also some of these companies are buying some of their energy at the spot price, and that can fluctuate massively depending on the weather. So this affects, as we go through and look at the Bitcoin mined per month, each month in the operational reports, some of those companies are having lower numbers for this reason right here. These costs are too high, so they're just choosing not to mine for a portion of the time with Bitcoin at these lower numbers. Now, with Bitcoin up around 21,000 right now, if that can hold or go up from there, a lot less of that will go on. Okay, lastly, I'm just going to show you one more chart, and this is really going to show you the chaos and confusion that this indicator is. I'm going to add the first quarter of 2022. Okay, so now you've got all three quarters. In green, you've got the first quarter. In red, you've got the second quarter. And in blue, you have the third quarter, ended 9/30/2022. So you can see from miner to miner, these things fluctuate massively. I will tell you, there's a couple of miners that jump out at me that we need to see if the trend continues, but the number one miner that jumps out at me is Bitfarms. They were at 10,600, 11,200, and 10,200. They were the most consistent miner for a price per coin all year long. They use mostly hydroelectricity, and I think they've been able to maintain this cost. But again, we'll see what happens in Q4. If Q4 comes out and they can show that all 4 quarters of the year, they're able to have a steady price, they're just about the only ones. Now, if I look at CleanSpark, if this trend continues, they moved massively in the right direction. They went from 13,500 down to 10,700 down to $8,000. So we're going to see, is there a seasonality to that? Does the fourth quarter pop back up a little bit, or are they just getting more efficient at what they're doing? Hive looks the same way. Now, I will tell you, the first quarter of 2022 was an outlier for Hive. They have mostly been around, between $10,000 and $13,000 in quarters prior to that. So they did have an anomaly. They said they had some super high spot prices that they paid for whatever reason. That one quarter was a big outlier. Riot, you can see, has been fairly consistent between 13 and 14,000 per coin. And again, that does not include the giant credits that they're getting for energy based on their curtailment and selling energy back to the grid. So that is another company that looks pretty good to me on this chart. There's many, many variables. We just talked about a bunch of them. So, don't be surprised when I do my fourth quarter to see some numbers that you weren't expecting. And again, I don't know what they are because until these financial statements come out, I don't know what these numbers are. And these numbers are all pulled directly from the financial statements. I know a lot of people like to look at this cost per coin, and so hopefully you guys can follow along with me. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments section. And remember, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel and smash the like button. So thanks so much for watching. And again, we do have a members-only live stream today after the market closes. Today is Tuesday. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.